So I've been seeing a lot of these my first weed experience stories popping up a lot in my recommended, and I've been sitting on my story for a few years now, and I figure I should finally get around to sharing it. Before jumping into it, I should mention that the background is blurred, or well, not blurred, but like different, green screened, I guess, for a future video hopefully coming out within the next month. And B, tying into that, I opened up a Gamersupps Discord. The link is in the description if you're interested. So our story takes place in the before times, pre-COVID, circa 2018. Twitch is at an all-time high in popularity. I had recently turned 21 and was among a group of people I wanted to go to TwitchCon with, but I had no funds to afford such a trip at this time. So I decided to wait until 2019's TwitchCon to go. I believe it was held shortly before my 22nd birthday, and I had never had weed before, mind you. It's illegal in my state, but as you may already know, it's legal in California, which is where TwitchCon was being held. So I had 3 goals I wanted to accomplish this trip. Have weed for the first time, ride one of those bird scooters, and have a blast meeting a bunch of different people. I can skip the whole TwitchCon portions of the story, as this is a first weed story, not my 2019 TwitchCon story, but maybe one day. So I'm with my group of friends, let's call them John, Sarah, and Tim. We're wrapping up the night, just finished having some dinner at a Korean barbecue place. Very good, would go to again if we had any around here. We end up winding down for the night at their Airbnb. Now mind you, it's like 11:30 midnight and we're all pretty tired. Sarah asks Tim to drive her somewhere 15 minutes away while me and John are left to vibe at their place until they get back. I wasn't informed of where they were going at the time, so I can only assume only Sarah knew where they were going. John ends up passing out, and I'm stuck there playing their Switch they brought to pass the time. An hour later, Sarah messages in the group chat to come outside. I ask if I should wake John, and she says yes, and to also bring a cup of water. Now I'm thinking, what in the Sam hell she want with a cup of water? I wake John up. We're sitting outside the Airbnb. 5 minutes later, they roll up. Sarah and Tim are walking up with a paper bag and shit-eating grins on their face. So I ask what's up. That's when Sarah pulls out a pre-roll and a big old bag of gummies from a paper bag. The bag of edibles had about 20 or 30 gummies in it, and I believe, I can't say for 100% for sure, that they were 50 milligrams each, which is unlikely for reasons I'll get into later. They must have been 10 milligrams. Nonetheless, we ask why this 30-minute trip took twice as long. Sarah explains that the GPS where they were going to, the place wasn't even there, and they ended up walking around streets randomly in a 4-block radius looking for the place. After probably 20 minutes of looking, they see this old abandoned, boarded up building, and audibly, like out loud, Tim asks, "Is this the place?" Which as soon as he says that, like as soon as the words leave his mouth, some dude comes out from behind the boards and exclaims, "Yep, this is the place," and walks off. Any sane human in this situation would just say fuck it and not even go there. But no, they went right in, and it was in fact the place. So they end up buying the pre-roll, the bag of edibles, forgot a lighter, and grab one from the gas station and come back. So we cut back to present time. John isn't even there mentally. He's still tired as fuck. Tim doesn't have any, as he's the only one with a car. I guess we didn't really consider Uber, but remember, it's like 12:30 to 1 in the morning at this point. Also, Tim is in Cali, and he was just visiting TwitchCon on his off days of work. So I doubt he would have wanted to leave his car. So me and Sarah are passing it back and forth, the pre-roll, and being my first time, I'm pretty sure, I'm like 99% sure I didn't get anything of it, didn't inhale, just wasted it. But now I've watched my fair share of Misfits podcast, and if any of their early stories told me anything, it's never do edibles early in your weed life. But I'm offered one from the bag and decide the story I'll get out of it is worth it. We're all standing there chatting, me and Sarah puffing up, outside the Airbnb. We each had one edible of the 20 or 30 and decide we should go our separate ways for the night. One little detail I forgot to mention is the pre-roll and bag of edibles cost them $200. $200. They never elaborated on why it was so expensive, but my best guess is either the edibles were in fact 50 milligrams, and that was a lot in that one bag, or the prices are just stupid high in California because they can be, because dispensaries legalize, that nonsense. But at the same time, I could go up to Michigan, a 2-hour drive from where I live, and get a bag of 100 milligram edibles for $20, but I don't know. So anyway, we take the edible and we decide we should go our separate ways for the night. I guess I had enough puffs to actually begin feeling high at the time we were leaving, and that's when it actually starts to kick in. It felt like when you're tipsy, getting buzzed from drinking, the threshold from buzz to drunk, that in-between area, and a warm, bubbly feeling in my stomach. But being in front of all these people, I couldn't expel all of this energy, so it instead bubbled up in my head. As we're walking away, that's when it really starts. Sarah and John head back into their Airbnb, and Tim has to drive me back to mine, which is like a 20-minute drive. He tells me they parked the truck about 3 blocks away. I shit you not, this 3-block walk felt in my head like half an hour. I was looking around at everything, thinking of my own thoughts. My thoughts were thinking thoughts, and I would only ever be pulled out of this thinking loop when something happens. For example, we're about a block away. Tim says, "Oh, it's starting to rain," which causes my thinking loop to begin anew on this topic. Since I was so in my head on these thought loops, I thought he was trying to fuck with me and thought he knew what was happening and, the paranoia, and he was just trying to give me a good high experience. But I, for some reason, end up holding my entire arm out, and after a few seconds say, "I don't feel anything." Give it a few more seconds and suddenly feel tingling all over my arms. Not like rain or like a light sprinkle, but like the feeling of you've been laying on your arm for so long and the blood is, you get off of it and the blood's starting to rush back to your arm. Now at this point, we're back at his truck. We get in, and this is when shit gets real. You're conscious? Yeah, I got a second one. As if I was outside of my body commentating my life in that moment. Like I was watching myself exist. Or I would think something, and then the brain of that thought would think about it, if that makes sense. All of this culminates in me getting paranoid. Did he plan this? Is it actually raining? Or is this all just in my head? That's whenever I would get in that thought loop of having two consciousnesses, I would feel myself jolt in the direction, like as if falling asleep, but you catch yourself and jolt back awake, something like that. But far more frequently, probably every 10 or 15 seconds, I can neither confirm nor deny if I actually physically jolted or if it was just in my head. Because Tim never said a word about it, and I never asked him. Anyway, we're driving down the highway as I'm fucking twitching about and thinking of this random shit when water splashes down on the windshield. And out loud, I say, "Nice try, dude. I know it's not raining." My dumbass thought, to convince me further that it was raining, he used the spray function on the windshield wipers to make me think it was raining. And naturally he goes, "What are you talking about? It's raining." I brush it off, but a few minutes later we reach an off-ramp that's kind of like one of those loop type deals. And I don't think there is a single off-ramp that does more than one loop in the world, but to me it felt like we were doing 3 full loops just to get off of it, if that helps elaborate how fucked my perception of time was. Then I decide to get to the bottom of this rain debate, and I look out the window at the other cars on the freeway, and sure as shit, windshields have water on them, wipers going. So I decide at this point that surely they're not in on this and it's actually raining. We get to my Airbnb, which is at a dead end, no outlet type deal. So he doesn't pull all the way into it, just at the intersection before it. Now remember, I'm super paranoid right now. I get out of his truck, start walking towards the place, and in the crosswalk, I look back at him, and he's still sitting there waiting on me. Why isn't he leaving? Is something happening? I get to the gate, put in the code, get inside, and I realized shortly after that he was waiting to see if I got inside safely. I check the time, and it's 1 a.m. The Airbnb I'm staying at has 7 other people staying there, and there's not a single one of them there. So I have to spend the next 20 minutes fumbling about, which again, remember, it feels to me as if everything takes far longer. Skip forward to when I lay in bed after looking to get shit figured out. My phone is low on juice, so I plug it in to a portable charger instead of the wall. But the phone's charging on the battery, and the battery is also low, so I plug that in, and the phone stops charging, which the next day I learned both can't charge at the same time. So I borrow someone's charger, charge the battery, and charge my phone normally. But when I say normally, what I decided made the most sense to do was lay on the floor next to the bed on the opposite side that had the outlet. I then get on the phone to peruse Discord and begin talking to people who have experience with weed. To make a long story short, I was on call with 2 other guys, and apparently my head was pressing up against the phone, which was pressing under the bed, while falling asleep. This was causing the phone to overheat and crash Discord and kick me out of it, I believe. This happened 3 or 4 more times before they were over it and they just stopped getting back in Discord. I say fuck it, check the time, it's 2 a.m. Still none of the 7 people there, and I decide I should just go to sleep. But I've had cotton mouth for the last half hour, and I decide to just go get some water, head to bed, and I'll be fine in the morning. So get my water, drink it, go lay in bed, and I can't fall asleep. Still high, and now I'm panicking. Is there some key to sleep I forgot? Am I doing something wrong? Lots of nothing thought processes later. I end up passing out, but a few hours later, I end up waking up to what I now know to be sleep paralysis. But it wasn't your typical spooky, scary sleep paralysis. All that happened was I woke up, knew I was awake, but felt my eyes were closed and couldn't move. So my eyes were closed, couldn't move, but I could still see. So what I could see while I was still asleep was someone of the 7 people came up the stairs. It was like a spiral staircase. He came up the stairs, went into the other room, came back out, went back downstairs, and that all took place over the span of like 2-3 seconds. Immediately after that, I wake up and it's the next day and I feel 100% fine. Now, the reason I mentioned the edibles were 50 milligrams, but I don't believe that they were, is 2 reasons. One, now I regularly take 5 milligrams, and if I go any higher, I get real bad weed hangovers that last anywhere from a day all the way to a week, week and a half. That's if I take more than 10 milligrams. And 2, later in that day, I learned that John, that same night, had taken 10 to 20 of them. If they were 10 milligrams each, that's 100 to 200 milligrams that he had. But if there were 50, that's 500 to 1,000, which is still possible. I don't know his tolerance, but that's a lot. A lot. Which again, is very possible. He was pretty zoinked the next day. I can't speak on him, but for me, it was my first time, so I assume my tolerance was low, so it took more to get high in the first place, so it could have been 50. I don't know. I never asked or looked into it further. But that's my weed story. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to check out the Discord for Gamer Sups. More content on that soon. And hopefully I'm going to get back into video making in the near future. I always say that, but I actually want to get back into it. See you guys later.